Welcome to For the Drive. I remain Collins Ogbona, and welcome to a very special playlist I'll be calling Collins Cars and Coffee, or Collins Coffee and Cars, Coffee, or Collins. Anyhow you'd like to call it. It's basically me chatting you up about the most technological cars around. Cars we can't review personally for now, but we can talk about. And for today, the coffee is not really that good because the milk has finished, but I'll manage it. Not good at all. Right, so the name of today's episode is most expensive cars in the world that make sense. That's new cars, most expensive new cars in the world that make sense. Now, when I was having this conversation with my friend yesterday, he actually said, well, is there any expensive car that makes sense? But yes, some expensive cars are actually expensive because of the technology and the amount spent on development. So it's not every expensive car that is expensive because the manufacturer just wants to make profit. Some cars are actually expensive because it takes that much money to make them. For example, when you're making a car go 250 miles an hour, there are a lot of things you have to put in place to make sure that the car stays stable at that speed, and it costs money to develop a car that's powerful. So this list of cars, about 10 of them, are the most expensive new cars that actually are expensive because of how unique they are. And to begin, we would start with Mercedes-Benz AMG, and the car is in number 10 place is Mercedes-Benz ONE, Mercedes-Benz AMG ONE. So Mercedes-Benz AMG is the most successful contemporary F1 team right now, and some years back they decided to take Formula One technology and bring it to the road. That is basically one of the maddest things I've heard in my life, because to take Formula One technology and make it road legal is very, 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 very difficult because of how advanced F1 is. So first of all, the Project One is powered by a hybrid V6. It has 4 electric motors, one on the transmission, another one on the turbocharger, and 2 other motors are on the front wheels. The engine, the V6, is powering the rear wheels. So this car has all-wheel drive and has a hybrid powertrain. Electric motors powering the front wheels, the engine powering the rear wheels is a very complex system that I won't be able to go into. And then the suspension of this car is crazily complex and advanced. So advanced, in fact, that you can spend an entire year in class. Not an entire year, but you can spend an entire course just trying to explain the advancements that were put into the suspension of this car, which makes it very beautiful. The aerodynamics on this car is active and it's out of this world advanced. So basically all the things I've been saying is advanced. That's how much cool this car is. Now Mercedes-Benz AMG would only be making 275 examples of this car, and each one would cost the owner $2.72 million. That rounds up to about 1.0336 billion naira. Yeah, I know that's a lot of money, but this car is worth it because this is the first time in the world that Formula One technology has been taken from the track directly to the road. Now, the next car is a Koenisegg. Koenisegg is a Swedish company, and this car is coming in number 9. Fun fact, Christian von Koenisegg, the founder of the company, is one of my greatest inspiration, apart from Jesus Christ. But yeah, let's go to the Koenisegg Jesko, which is number 9 on our list of the most expensive cars that make sense. First of all, this car is powered by a 5-liter V8. It's twin turbocharged. It makes about 1,500 horsepower, depending on the quality of fuel you use. Now, this car has a very complex suspension. They call it triplex suspension. I won't go into it. But what it does is that it makes the car, it improves the handling of the car without compromising the comfort of the car. So you have comfort and you have good handling at the same time, which is a very difficult thing to achieve in a vehicle. Another thing that makes this car crazy is the fact that it has a top speed of over 250 miles an hour. It will go faster than that, so much faster in fact that very soon Koenisegg will be shooting for 300 miles an hour in a modified version of the Jesko. Now, the Jesko is one of my favorites because Koenisegg developed a new transmission for this car. It's a 9-speed transmission, dual clutches. But what makes this transmission very unique and crazy in a little sense is the fact that it's not sequential in its movements. The gears does not move sequentially. The car can basically choose any gear it wants to per time. So for example, the car can shift from 7th to 1st. It can shift from 1st directly to 4th gear, and it will skip 2nd and 3rd. You know, usually when you want to shift a gear, you move from 1st to 2nd, 2nd to 3rd, but this car can just move directly from 1st to 6th or from 6th to 9th, depending on what the car needs per time. That is crazy, and for a small manufacturer to achieve that makes this car worth its price of about $2.75 million, which is coming to about 1.048 billion naira. And it's worth it because of how much money Koenisegg has put into developing this car. Yeah. So the next car on my list is a Lamborghini. It's called the Essenva SC V12. Now, this car is only on this list because I'm magnanimous, I'm a good guy, but in a little sense, it's not supposed to be on this list because it doesn't make that much sense. Why doesn't it make sense? First of all, this car cannot be driven on the road. It's only track based because it's not road legal. It's that extreme. Another thing that makes sense is that it's powered by a 6.5 liter V12, creating about 850 horsepower. That's a lot of power. Now, what makes this car unique from the Aventador is the fact that it has an atmospheric supercharger. What that means is that the faster the car goes, the more power the car makes, because the wind that is entering the vents on top of the car is actually it is accelerated. So it's as if Lamborghini found a way to multiply the wind coming into the car, and that way making more power. So it's very crazy. Another thing that's crazy about the car is the downforce. Downforce is the forces acting on the car as it moves. So the downforce that this car creates is a lot. That means that it will be able to go through bends much more quicker than other cars. So for that reason, and because I'm a generous guy, this car makes the list, and it's coming about $2.9 million. That would be the price, which in Nigeria naira is 1.102 billion naira. And it doesn't really make that much sense because you can buy a cheaper car with almost the same performance. But I'm a nice guy, so for that reason, the Lamborghini Essenva SC V12 makes our list of the most expensive cars. That makes sense. The next car on our list is an Aston Martin, and I want you to know that I have a weakness for Porsches and Aston Martins. Don't ask me why, I can't explain it. So in 2016, I had not entered school at this time. Aston Martin announced to the world that they were going to make a road car that would be as fast as an F1 racer. That is crazy because F1 cars are designed for speed and they are bonkers. They are like space technology on Earth or on the road. So when Aston Martin said they were going to make a road car with similar performance as an F1 car, they meant it, because the guy working on the project is Adrian Newey, which is one of the smartest guys around. Now, what does this car come with? This car is powered by a V12, a 6.5 liter V12, designed by Cosworth. Red line of 11,000, wait for it, 11,000 RPM. So that means this car has twice the revolutions per minute of your average car. 11,000 RPM. At that speed, the engine is making 1,000 horsepower, but the car also has an electrical system, so it's a hybrid. So it has an engine and an electric motor and batteries. So the electrical system creates additional 130 horsepower, which is about the same power of most small cars. So combined, the system makes 1,130 horsepower. But that's not the craziest part of this car. It's how much the car actually weighs. The car weighs about 1,080 kilograms. So that means this car has more power than it weighs. So it has a power to weight ratio of 1.1, which is bonkers. Another thing that's crazy about this car is that it's basically a wind tunnel. What that means is that the cabin of the car has been shaped in a certain way that the driver's legs are up. So underneath the car is basically a wind tunnel so that the car is sucked to the ground. Well, that has a lot of power to go fast in a straight line. It has a lot of downforce to go through turns, and it also has a lot of power to achieve high speeds. And it's light. That means the handling is excellent. So this is probably one of the most advanced cars that will be released very soon. The project started in 2016, but it's still in development, final stages of development. By next year or the upper year, they would have produced all of them. Now this car is worth $3 million, and of all the cars on this list, this car is one of the ones that the price makes absolute sense, even though it cost about 1.140 billion. If I had that much money, I wouldn't even think twice about getting it, because it's a different world when it comes to performance that this car would be releasing. So for that reason, the Aston Martin Valkyrie is one of the most making sense expensive cars in the world. Right, so the next car on my list is a car called the Gordon Murray T50. Yes. So Gordon Murray, like Adrian Newey, was in F1 in the 80s and 90s, and he was one of the most successful engineering leaders at that time. So he decided that he wanted to make a supercar in the vein of the McLaren F1. The F1 is considered to be the best supercar ever created in the world, so much so that they cost about 30 million these days. Now, the T50 is crazy. First reason it is a very good car is that the sitting position or the sitting arrangement in the car is a delta formation. That means the driver is sitting in the middle of the car, not on the side, in the middle. Then he has a passenger seat on this side, a passenger seat on the side. This is the third car in the world with that seating arrangement. What makes this car crazy? Number one, this car has a 3.9 liter V12, naturally aspirated, and it produces about 600 horsepower. Now the craziest thing about this car is that it was designed by Cosworth. Cosworth is, again, one of the most advanced engineering companies in the world, and this car has a maximum revolution of 12,100 RPM. That's the highest revving engine in the entire world. So the total power package is 663 horsepower. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, not until you realize that this car weighs 986 kilograms, making it one of the lightest cars to ever be released in the world. 996 kilograms, because most supercars weigh about 1,500 kilograms. So this car is about 40% lighter than most supercars. And then it has a fan at the back. That fan helps it go through the air much faster, and it also produces more downforce. One of the first cars to have a fan integrated into its aerodynamic package. The last thing, which is my favorite thing, is that this car has a manual transmission. Cluck, cluck. So that means that you basically connect with the car in ways that you can never connect with any other car. So for that reason, the price of 3.08 million is worth it. that rounds up to about 1.170 billion naira, apart from taxes and shipping cost. But that's still good for me, I think. The next car on my list is a Bugatti, and it's the Bugatti Pur Sport. Now, Bugatti has been releasing some very unnecessarily expensive cars recently, but the Pur Sport makes a little more sense. Why? Because most Bugattis were designed to just go fast in a straight line, but the Pur Sport was designed to not just go fast in a straight line, but to go faster through corners. How did they do it? Number one, acceleration. The transmission gearing has been fine-tuned in a way that the car accelerates quicker. So 0 to 60 miles an hour happens in 2.3 seconds. Another thing is downforce. This car creates more downforce than your average Bugatti. Another thing, again, that makes it much more track worthy is weight. The car saves 50 kilograms of weight. Now, so for the first time in a very long time, Bugatti has a shot on breaking a lap record around the track. Usually, the only things that Bugatti cared about breaking was speed record, but now they can actually break lap times because the car is more track worthy. Now, for that reason, the Pur Sport comes in about $3.1 million. That is, no, it's actually $3.3 million. And it's worth it. Yeah, it's a Bugatti. The next car on our list is a Pagani. Pagani is an Italian brand created by Horacio Pagani. Horacio Pagani is one of the greatest minds in the car world, and basically his cars are known for being art. So Pagani is an artist and an engineer at the same time. So he finds a way to make his cars so beautiful that they are like artwork. So another hallmark of the Pagani is lightness. They are very light because Pagani found a way to mix titanium and carbon fiber into one. So he called it carbotanium, which is just space technology, basically. So the next car on our list, number 6, is the Pagani HUAYRA BC Roadster. Now this car is the Roadster version of the BC HUAYRA. That means the roof comes out, and it's a little bit more beautiful than the Pagani BC, but it's lighter, it has more power, and basically speaking, it's one of the coolest convertible cars you can have around. So for that reason, the Pagani HUAYRA BC Roadster is one of the making sense cars. It costs $3.4 million, and that comes up to about 1.29 billion naira, apart from taxes and shipping cost. It's basically for people who are mad, but it makes a lot of sense because it's an exclusive car, technologically advanced car, and it's still artwork at the same time. So yeah. The third car on my list today is also a Bugatti. I told you Bugatti has a thing for releasing crazy cars, but this one makes more sense, even more sense than the Pur Sport. Why? In 2019, Bugatti broke the land speed record of 303 miles an hour. It's crazy. That's the first time a vehicle, a road car, a road production car exceeded 300 miles an hour. So Bugatti broke that. But more accolades goes to Michelin. Michelin is the tire company that developed the tires for that Bugatti. They are the real heroes in this story because Michelin designed a tire rubber that can withstand the heat and pressure that, is acting on the tire above 300 miles an hour. So kudos to Michelin. Now, what makes this car unique? First of all, it has more horsepower, has a W16 quad turbocharged engine, one of the largest engines in the world in a production car, and that engine makes 1,600 horsepower. 0 to 60 happens in 2.4 seconds, 0.1 second faster than your Chiron, and the bodywork of the car was modified so that at that speed the car is still stable. So the back end of the car was elongated by a few inches. The front of the car was a bit redesigned. The wheel arches was also redesigned. The car was made a little bit lighter, essentially making it a speed demon. So for that reason, the Bugatti Chiron Supersport 300 Plus makes a lot of sense for its price. How much does it cost? It actually costs $3.9 million, rounding up to 1.482 billion naira, but apart from shipping costs. But for the privilege of owning the first car to break 300 miles an hour, it makes a lot of sense. But don't just buy this car because maintenance is gonna be crazy, because the tires for this car is special, even more special than the one on the Chiron. So get ready, my sister or brother. Right, so the next car on our list is also a Pagani, but this one is a very special Pagani. Now this one is like a tailored made suit. So what this car is basically, which is the Pagani HUAYRA Imola, is just like you go to a store and you don't like the suit you see on the rack. You're like, I want a tailored made suit. That's what the Imola is. Only 5 of this car will be made ever. And it's basically tailoring the Pagani HUAYRA to 5 specific customers. So that's what Pagani did. It's like tailoring the car to their very needs. It's extreme. Like the aerodynamics is extreme on this car. The design of the wing, the design of the front, the power comes up to about 827 horsepower. It's a V12 designed by AMG for them. And this car makes 1,100 Newton meters of torque. That's a lot. And it accelerates brutally, like 2.5 seconds to 0 to 60, which is Bugatti level of performance. And it has downforce to go through a corner crazily. Now the name Imola comes from an Italian racetrack, which is one of the most deadliest racetracks in the world. So for that name to be given to the car means that the car is brutal in this performance. So for that reason, this car costing about $5.4 million, which is about 2 billion naira, is worth it because it's a suit for someone. It's a specific suit for a specific set of people, and it's a tour de force. So makes a lot of sense. The Bugatti Centodieci, that's the next car, and I didn't pronounce that right because Centodieci actually means 110. I think in Italiano, it means 110. So this car was made to honor the Bugatti 110 that was created in 1992. So this new car was made to celebrate that old car. Only 10 of these cars will be made, and each of them cost about $9 million. $9 million. That's almost like twice the price of the Imola that we just talked about. That rounds up to about 3.4 billion naira. Now let me now tell you why that makes sense. First of all, this is one of the most beautiful cars ever made in the world, in my perspective at least. It's beautiful. It's simply masterful. And number 2, only 10 of these cars will be made. And number 3, it has more power, 1,600 horsepower, and it's just 10. So in that sense, just 10 will ever be made, and I don't know, it just sounds quite cool to have a car with just 10 in the world, unique to you. A car that looks like no other, a car that it's like a tailor-made suit again, just for you. And I love the fact that Bugatti is only making it in white color. It just brings out its lines better. So this is my list of the top 10 cars that are expensive in 2020 that make sense. But pardon me. So these cars, for me, it's not about the price. That's not the important thing. What is important for me is the fact that these cars are advanced. They are like dreams. They are basically bringing space technology to the road, and they it's just a way, it's just an expression. Some people just express themselves when they're driving. You know, some people express themselves in writing, some people express themselves in singing, some people express themselves through painting, some people express themselves when they drive. And these cars, they transform the driving experience of anybody in them, and they break barriers, and that's why they cost this much. So I don't know, some of them are going to rise in value and some of them will fall in value. So some of them that are expensive right now, in some years to come their value is going to drop, and some of them, their values are actually going to go up. So either way, I'm fine with it, because you can find cheaper cars with crazy performance, but these cars are expensive, but they still make sense for the price they bring. So thank you for joining me on our first episode of Collins Cars and Coffee. And even though today's coffee was bad, I still managed this, and so stick with us. The next one we'll be doing are top 5 cars in the world, the most expensive, that doesn't make any sense in my perspective at least. So stay blessed and God bless you.